All right, thank you.
Alrighty, so I'll get us started here. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today actually kicks off our Invest in Your World Lunch and Learn series, which will be held for the next 3 weeks. And today we'll be talking about investing in yourself, food, mood, and stress. I am Joanna Courtemanche, and if you want to advance to the next slide, Andrea.
Sounds good.
Perfect. All right, so that's me. I am the Family and Consumer Sciences Extension Agent in Hillsborough County, and I do everything pertaining to human development. So I'll be covering our stress portion today, and I have my counterpart here with me, Andrea. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
So my name's Andrea Nikolai, and I work with the University of Florida Extension in Polk County. So I do something similar, only I focus more on nutrition than Joanna does. So we'll get to me later.
Yes, awesome. All right, so we want to share this with you all. So we are an equal opportunity institution. So if you feel like you have been discriminated against, you can go ahead and file a complaint using that hyperlink that you see in the slide. You can advance, that's fine. You want to go over this one?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, if you haven't used Zoom in a while, if you are missing the chat box, if you have any questions or anything, that would be a great place to put them. And sometimes it disappears, which mine did. You just have to hover over the top or the bottom of the screen, and that toolbar should appear again. And then sometimes there's a chat button, and sometimes there's a more, and then you can find the chat under there. But that would be a great spot to type questions. So take it away.
And we'll be using the chat box throughout today. So we'll go ahead and get started. And we're going to talk a little bit about stress. So as we begin today's session, I want you guys to realize that stress is actually a big part of our lives. And, you know, we could sit here and do a 6-week course on stress management, and we still want to be able to cover everything, right? So for today, we'll be focusing a little bit more on resiliency and how we can cope with stress more effectively. So I want to know, and I want you guys to utilize that chat box, or if you want to utilize the reactions on Zoom and raise your hand, you can go ahead and do so. But how many of you guys have experienced stress in the last 24 hours? Steve, I see you, Steve. Who else? If you're not raising your hand, you might be lying if it's stress or not. Well, stress is a part of our everyday life, right? And to be alive means that we're experiencing joy and pleasurable moments, but we're also experiencing stress as well. So stress shouldn't get the best of us, right? We have to learn to live with it and find ways to manage and cope. But it can also be very stimulating and challenging for us. But we want it to be to a point where it's not overwhelming. All right, can we go to the next one, Andrea?
Yep.
So what exactly is stress, right? Let's break it down. So there we go. Perfect. So stress is a reaction to a demand or a change that we believe challenges our ability to cope. And if our brain perceives this as a threat, our body is quick to respond, right? How many of you guys have heard of that fight or flight? And you can just raise your hand. The fight or flight response. Yeah, everyone's heard of it, right? So when it comes to stress, there are 2 categories that we can put stress into, right? So one would be major life changes, something such as, you know, the birth of a child, maybe you got married, maybe you're starting a new job, maybe you have a financial burden that you didn't have before. All these things are major life changes, right? And then you also have your daily hassles, which would be the second category. So I want you guys, again, to utilize the chat, and I want you guys to put in the chat, what was a daily hassle that you experienced in this week alone? Some people are like, where do I start, right? It's only Tuesday, guys. The drive to work, traffic. Yeah, that's a big one. Traffic can be very stressful for sure.
Everyone's agreeing.
Everyone's saying the same thing, right? Doctor's appointments, the kids, work. Yeah. Yeah. College entrance interview today. Good luck with that, Melanie. Best of luck. But yeah, so it's definitely tough, right? Coming up with dinner plans since I cook every day. Oh my gosh, I was just talking about that the other day. Like, if I knew that adulting involved having to come up with a meal every day, I probably would have chosen not to. But yeah, it can be very stressful, right? So remember that it's a perceived view, right? So it is our own perception to an event that may be causing this stress. So if we think we're not able to deal with the challenge, crisis, or change, how are we going to decide if it's actually stress or if it's just an annoyance in our daily life, right? All right, if we can skip to the next one. So let's examine a short list here of typical causes of stress, right? So on your screen, you see everything that you've mentioned in the chat box, right? So job responsibilities, school, uncertainty of the future, especially right now. We're already on year 2 of this pandemic, and it seems like there's no end, right? Health concerns, financial worries, relationships with others, parental and family responsibilities, and then just change in general, right? So I want you guys to keep something in mind. Not all stress is bad. And when I say that, some people are like, well, stress is the one thing that is causing an annoyance in my life. But there are different types of stress, right? So first you have positive stress, and those are the stressors that we have in our everyday lives. Like you were talking about commuting, traffic, coming up with what to make for dinner, just those things that are in our daily lives, right? And then you have tolerable stress. That is also another form of positive stress. And it says it within itself is tolerable. And then the third type is toxic stress. And you really want to avoid getting to that toxic point because that's when you might have some health concerns and it might become chronic stress. So what exactly is the positive side of stress, right? So there are some benefits, and some of the benefits actually talk about how we can achieve and produce more when we're stressed. I don't know about you guys, but I'm the type of person who works more efficiently when I'm stressed. That's not everyone. But sometimes when we have deadlines or we have a goal to meet, right? Or we just have the pressure of something going on in our lives, it gives us the drive to reach our goals. So stress, like I said, can be a very positive thing. So I want to examine the productivity and stress curve in the next slide. And I want you guys, again, to utilize the chat box. And I want you guys, so let me explain or break down the stress curve here really quick. So the productivity and stress curve explains that we need a certain amount of stress in our lives to be productive, right? So we've got 3 sections here. You have understimulation, you have optimum stimulation, and then you have overstimulation. So if there isn't enough pressure going on in our lives, we're probably going to be in this green area, right? So understimulated, we're going to tend to be unchallenged, unproductive, and probably even bored, right? So we're essentially dissatisfied. Then when we move into this yellow category, if we have too many demands, we can easily shift into that blue category. But when you're in the yellow category, you just have the right amount of stress. And that's that second type of stress that I was talking about. It's tolerable. It's nothing that's going to make such a big impact that you can't cope with it. And then as you move into the blue section, you're overstimulated, right? So this is where it can become chronic or very intense. And we feel a lot of negative effects, and our productivity eventually decreases. Usually this is when you're feeling burnout, right? So the amount of stress that we have enhances our creativity and allows us to solve problems effectively. So optimum stress is in that yellow category. So again, use the chat box, and I want you guys to put in there, where are you in terms of this productivity and stress curve? Are you in the green section, the yellow section, or the blue section? So go ahead and type that in. Yellow, okay, good. Blue, if y'all are in the blue, it's a good thing you're here. I'm glad you're here today. And this can change, yes, like Heather said, you might be yellow today and blue tomorrow. So it's very fluid. You know, for the most part, yellow, blue, yeah. And you can fall in between two categories as well. Oh no, I really hope for those of you that are in the blue, you can benefit from today, right? And we'll get into some relaxation in a little bit, but okay. So as we move forward, I want you guys to all think about, I want to be in that yellow category, right? If you're under challenged or understimulated, you're not going to be satisfied. So optimum stimulation is in that yellow category. All right, so let's keep going. If you want to advance to the next slide, perfect. All right, so let's go over a little bit about the anatomy, right? So what exactly is happening to our bodies when we're stressed? Well, when we have these stressful events or an ongoing problem surfaces again, right? Your brain takes information and signals to your body to produce extra chemicals because it may perceive this stress as a threat. Now, you guys will see on the screen here the stress response, right? So when you are stressed, your body releases cortisol, and that's when your body goes into that fight or flight mode. So your brain and your nervous system reacts to a perceived threat, right? So maybe it was somebody honking at you this morning going to work, right? On your commute to work. Or maybe it was you're stressed out because you're not sure how you're going to pay your bills. All of these things that cause our stress, right? So in terms of anatomy, our adrenal and pituitary glands produce cortisol and cortisone. And when those are released, your body enters into that fight or flight mode. Now, your liver releases extra glucose for energy, right? So your heart starts pumping faster, your arteries constrict, your blood pressure rises, your breathing can become fast, your muscles get tense. But imagine this happening all the time, right? So you're always in that toxic stress. Now, this is definitely going to affect you, and it can become chronic stress. And then later on, we'll talk about some of the healthcare implications. But in other words, you're wired for action, and that's just how our brain works. But daily stress is sometimes so subtle that we don't even notice it's happening. So for the most part, going to lead to other underlying healthcare conditions. So what exactly are the costs of chronic stress? If we can advance to the next slide. So when we don't manage our stress, right? I was talking about how if you're in that toxic category, in that blue part of the productivity curve, our physical health is at risk, as well as our emotional health. So what health problems are stress related? If you want to use the chat box, what kind of health problems do you think can be related to chronic stress? I see Heather here was asking a question. Is fatigue different than exhaustion? Yes, it is different. So yep, Beth, it can lead to being overweight. What else? What does chronic stress lead to in terms of your health? High blood pressure, yep. You can get sick more often, yes, definitely. Depression, yes, especially if it's long-term chronic, well, chronic stress is long-term, but if it's been happening for a while, right? It can affect your thyroid, yep. High blood glucose, depression, panic attacks, yes. And it can definitely have a toll on your mental health as a whole as well, right? Anxiety, Headaches, yes, because you've got that high blood pressure, right? So when it comes to our emotional health, it can decline because we experience withdrawal, right? We're in that burnout phase. And then we can probably get depression, like you guys were saying. And then behaviors trouble surface in the form of anger, right? We're always angry, we're aggressive, or maybe we have an outburst, but we can't really understand why. Well, it's because you're stressed all the time. Another thing is we can have difficulty in our relationships, whether that's a romantic relationship or a relationship with our children, a relationship with our coworkers, and the problems will start to arise, right? And not only does it make your performance go down, but we are difficult to get along with as well, right? Everybody else suffers through our chronic stress. So stress takes away our right to enjoy life, right? And it takes away the right that we have to feel good about ourselves. Who doesn't like to feel good about themselves? And it also even accelerates the aging process, right? So you'll see that a lot of people who are stressed have more wrinkles. They are tired all the time, right? Like you were saying, like you guys were saying earlier, they're sick, they're depressed, they have panic attacks, all these things. But if we're taking the steps to manage our stress and return our bodies to that normal state, then we're going to suffer a lot less with little to no damage. All right, so if we can advance to the next one. Is your stress likely to go away tomorrow? Probably not, right? Especially if you're in that blue part of that productivity curve. But if you're pacing yourself, you're a lot less likely to get into that toxic stress. Now, let's talk a little bit about resiliency, right? So I mentioned this earlier. So if we want to avoid the harmful effects of stress, we need to think about what will it take to manage it. And that's where resiliency comes in. So it's the quality of our resiliency that allows us to face the multiple demands of a busy and complicated life, right? Especially nowadays, everything is always go, 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 especially if you have a lot of responsibilities. So I want you guys to write in the chat box, what does resiliency mean to you? Yes, Miss Ortiz. Yep, exercise does help, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah, the ability to say no, how to bounce back, to shake off the stress. Yeah, not let it affect you as much as you think it should, right? Coping, yes. What is your coping mechanism, right? And it might look different for all of us, exactly. So you want to be flexible, you want to be adaptive, putting things into different perspectives, right? Exactly. Coping well with changes, having a good sense of humor, right? Laughing it off, having some wisdom in life. Yeah, prayer, definitely. So you may believe that the stress you experience is caused by someone or by a situation. And if that person or situation were not part of your life, you'd be okay, right? But chances are that your stress is more about you than about the problem or about the person, right? It's how you deal with the stress. Yeah. So let's go ahead and go to the next one. And I want to ask you guys a question. Think about a fragile egg, right? And we've all heard the term walking on eggshells, but usually when we're stressed, that's how it is, right? Everyone around you is walking on eggshells. So do you want to be this fragile egg where the shell is so thin that you can crack at any moment? Or do you want to be a responsive tennis ball? You can bounce back like this, right? And oftentimes it's easier said than done, of course. But what is it that you want to be, right? And that's what I talked about earlier with our perception, right? It's how we perceive problems and people that controls our stress. We are our biggest enemy. So let's keep moving on. So we each have a road to resilience, right? And it's about finding ways to change your own attitude and behavior to help you deal with the reality of life. Why? Because stress is a normal part of life. Can we go to the next one? So I want you guys to be very aware of your thoughts, your feelings, your attitudes towards these potential stressors that we've already talked about, right? So as we start being aware of these things, most events are neither good or bad. It's our interpretation of a demand that creates our feelings and ultimately the stress that we experience. So for example, right, here in Florida, especially in the summertime, it rains a lot. Now, in terms of everybody that was talking about traffic, if traffic was your stressor today, imagine adding rain to that, right? And it might have rained in some places. But how does that feel, right? Adding another layer of stress. Probably not good, but it's our perception of stress that can make the big difference. So our minds can create self-defeating thoughts, right? Like, oh, this is the worst thing that could happen to me, or great, this is how I'm going to start my day or my week. My life is ruined, right? Sometimes it can be a little dramatic, but sometimes things get distorted. So I want you guys to allow your stress alert symptoms to be mature and react to changes with wisdom, right? So if we can go to the next one. So when you can't influence the outcome, let it go, right? One of the best pieces of advice that I've gotten is, if you can't change it, why stress about it, right? So make the changes necessary to influence the outcomes. And when you can't, let it go. Like I said, easier said than done, but this is what resiliency is all about. And it's about realizing that when you have control over a situation and you can change something, great, go ahead and do so. But when you don't, there's no need to overexert yourself and get into that blue part of that productivity curve, right? You're pushing yourself there. So don't waste your valuable energy on things that are out of your control, especially when you're not able to change somebody's perception, right? Because we all have a different perception. Our brains work differently. And holding on to anger or fear is not a way to be resilient. So decide what's important to you and what you are capable of changing, and let go of the rest. If we can go to the next one, please. So we're now going to spend a little bit of time on how to control your response to these stressors, right? So, hey, Joanna, I'm stressed. What is it that I can do about it? Well, let's start talking about taking care of our body and our mind. And a little bit later, Andrea's going to go into some great nutrition tips. But I want to start talking about our body and our mind. So we're, if you can skip to the next one, please. So an easy thing to do is practice relaxation exercise. And I'm not sure how many of you guys already do this, or maybe you've never heard of it, but relaxation exercise can counteract your body's response to stress. So this means it can slow down your breathing. You can have deeper breaths, slow down your heart rate, and return your body to a normal pace. Oftentimes when we're reacting to stress, we don't give ourselves enough time to actually process what's going on. We feel like we have to respond immediately. But one of the most simple ways to relax is just like these little emojis here, right? Live in the moment. Yes, definitely. So we're going to go into a quick progressive muscle relaxation exercise. If we can go to the next slide. So I want you guys to be very aware of your breath, right? Relax your body, your mind, and I want you guys to really focus on visualization. So I'm going to ask you, the people that have their cameras on, I would like for you to turn your cameras off at this moment. And if you're unmuted, go ahead and mute now. And we're going to do a quick relaxation exercise. All right. So I really want you guys to just follow my voice. You won't even see me. I just want you guys to follow my voice. So I want you guys to close your eyes and get comfortable in your seat. Sit back and let the back of your chair support you. I want you to uncross your arms and legs. Close those eyes. If you're uncomfortable closing your eyes or you get sleepy, you can open your eyes and look down at the floor, but we all have our cameras off. And I want you guys to start off by taking a really deep breath. All right, let's all take a deep breath. Breathe in, hold it, and then I want you to slowly exhale. Now I want you to continue breathing slowly and deeply. breathing in and slowly exhaling. Now I want you to bring your attention to your face and your head. All right, so I want you to scrunch up your face. I want you to tighten your face by closing your eyes tightly, tighten your lips, tighten your cheeks, and I want you to hold that tension there for a moment. I want you to feel that tension in your face. Now, I want you to let that go slowly, and I want you to relax your face. Relax your eyes. You don't need to use them now, just let them rest. I want you to notice the difference between how your face feels now compared to when you were tightening every part of your face. Different, right? Now I want you to move your attention to your cheeks and your jaw. I want you to consciously relax all those muscles in your cheeks and jaw, under your ears, running down to your chin. And I want you to let go of any tension that you have. I want you to relax your mouth, focus on your forehead and smooth out that tension you're holding in your forehead and your eyebrows. And let the thinking part of your brain rest for a short time by bringing all your thoughts to how relaxed your face is in this exact moment. Now I want you to move your focus to your neck and your shoulders, right? We're moving down our body. So this is the transition place between the thinking head and the working body. So I want you to pull your shoulders to your ears, and I want you to tense your neck and your shoulders and make that really, really tense to where you feel it in the sides of your neck and your shoulder blades. And I want you to hold it tight, 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 hold it tighter. And they're probably the most difficult part of the body to tense, but these are often the spots where most of us hold our stress. So I want you to hold that tension a bit more. I want you to relax. All right, so let your shoulders drop down. Tell yourself silently, every muscle in my neck is completely relaxed. Everything is relaxed. Now I want you to vividly imagine the tension melting out of your neck and your shoulder muscles and pouring down over your shoulders like a gentle, warm summer rain. And I want you to imagine you can feel the rain tickling you as it slides down your neck and over your shoulders. And I want you to relax those shoulders a bit more. Now let the warm, gentle rain move slowly down your upper back, your middle back, going down your lower back. Let your lower back sink into the back of that chair that you're sitting on and relax all the way down to your spine, washing away and dissolving any tension. Now say to yourself, my neck, shoulders, and back feel warm, relaxed, and clear. And enjoy the feeling of being relaxed and calm. Now I want you to be aware of the muscles in your arms, your upper arms, your lower arms, your hands. I want you to bend those elbows, make a tight, tight fist, and tense your arms and hands. Hold those tight. Now put them down and let them hang heavy at your side as you imagine any strain melting away. Every muscle in your arms and hands is completely relaxed now. Now I want you to notice your chest and your belly, right? Relax and expand your belly so that your lungs can get a full, deep breath of fresh air. Breathe in deeply and release any tension with your exhale. Let the air in and the tension go out with a sigh. I want you to try it one more time. Let's breathe in. And breathe out. So now move your attention to your hips and your butt. Now tense those muscles. Y'all are probably laughing at me, but I want you to tense those muscles and hold that tension for a few moments. And I want you to raise yourself up out of your chair with your large muscles. So tight, tight, tight. And this is the one place where stress will prepare your body for that fight or flight, right? Running away from a real or perceived danger. If you don't run, that tension is held in those large muscles of your hips and your butt. Are you guys ready to relax? I'm sure you are. So let go of that tension and slowly sink into your chair and bring this area back to a restful state by consciously imagining those large muscles as relaxed. Your legs don't need to run now. They can take a well-needed rest, right? So focus on relaxing each muscle from the thighs down to your legs, into your calves, your knees, your lower legs, your ankles, and take a deep breath and feel the peace in your body. Now I want you to continue breathing slowly and deeply. And I want you to imagine you can see this peaceful feeling as a beautiful light pink color that floats up from your feet and slowly moves around your entire body, forming a very comfortable, protective cocoon around you. And notice how good you feel. Your muscles are warm and relaxed. Now I want you to take a deep cleansing breath with your eyes still closed, and I want you to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Wiggle those. And I want you to stretch your arms and legs. I want you to stretch your entire body. And now you can open your eyes. And for those of you that had your camera on, if you want to turn it back on, you're more than welcome to. But I want to bring you guys back, right? So I hope everybody's a little bit more relaxed now. Yeah, is everybody relaxed? Did you guys like that? Yeah? Nobody's talking because they're so relaxed, right? All right, so let's move on to the next slide, please, Andrea. So there are two things that we often consume that actually mimic the stress response in our bodies. Can anybody guess what that is? The two things that we consume that mimic that stress response in our body. Caffeine, yes, Heather. What's the other one? Sugar, perfect. Yes. So caffeine and sugar mimic that stress response in our body, right? And like I said, in a little bit, Andrea will go over a little bit more nutrition to help our mood. But I want to do one last exercise before I hand it over to Andrea with you guys. You can go to the next slide, please. So I want you guys to write down 2 personal goals. And these goals are going to be related to stress. Now, I want you guys to use your name. So this is a little name game. So you have some examples on the screen. So for example, the first one, her name is Ellen Crane. I will start to exercise and I choose a more positive response to my stressors. So I want you guys to write this in the chat box. So write 2 personal goals based on the first letter of your first name and the first letter of your last name. So go ahead and use the chat box. I'll give you a little bit. And I want you guys to write these 2 goals. You have some examples up here. Paula, positivity. I like that. Having a more positive outlook on life, right? Definitely. What else? How are you guys planning to manage your stress? Like I said earlier, it's a little bit easier said than done. Angelita, I will eat an apple instead of a second cup of coffee. Love that. Yes. I will make an effort to get up from my desk more often, and I will stop jiggling between projects. Okay. I will find another perspective to most negatives in my work life, and I will look for chances to meet with friends in person this year. I like that. Yes, definitely change that perspective, right? From when COVID was a thing, is a thing, right? Lorraine, I will seek out others when I need to talk. Yeah, seek out resources, a support system. Andrea, analyze the situation. You don't want to be an egg, right? You want to be a tennis ball. Practice Tai Chi. Oh, I like that one too. Definitely very relaxing. Get more exercise, working on your garden, get out, enjoy the outdoors. Exactly. All right, great job, guys. So let's go to the final slide. So just to summarize kind of what we talked about today, right? We want to find solutions to our stressors when possible and let go of what we have no control over, because we're going to end up putting ourselves in that blue section of that productivity curve, right? We're our biggest enemy, and we're doing it to ourselves. So we talked about how our attitude and behavior can add to our stress. And we also went over how having some healthy lifestyle habits, such as eating right, getting enough sleep, and exercising, can do a lot to reduce our stress. So that's going to segue into the second part of today. And we're going to start talking about nutrition, right? And how nutrition can really have an impact on our mood. So take it away, Andrea.
Thank you so much. That was really good. So I was just gonna piggyback off of her and so talk about some of the things how food can actually affect your mood also. So we know that stress can affect your mood, and like your mood can also affect what you're eating. And so it's kind of like this association, but there's some really interesting stuff. So I looked through a ton of studies to try to find like the best evidence on what we really want to eat. And so I'll talk to you about that today. So everybody gets moody. Some days you'll feel like you're on top of the world. Other days you'll feel like staying under the covers. And it's okay to feel sad sometimes too. So moods and emotions are complex. It's thought that there's three factors that can combine to create the like moods and emotions in the brain. This biology, like our hormones and chemicals, the psychology, such as your personality and your learned responses, and your environment. So that'd be like illness and traffic. And so common everyday causes of negative mood include stress, sometimes like poor sleep, needing to eat. You guys know how that can affect your mood. The news, the weather, hormonal changes, lack of exercise, actually, need for a break. And then there's certain foods too, and drugs and alcohol, poor nutrition, and medical side effects. So it's like there's a lot of different things that can affect your mood, but it's kind of cool because you can do something about it with food. That diet is part of it. So we do know, these are some things we know. We know that skipping meals can affect your mood. It's known that if you miss a meal, especially breakfast, sometimes that can lead to low blood sugar. That will likely make you, leave you feeling tired and weak. Cutting out entire food groups. If you reduce the variety of foods in your diet, it can be a lot more difficult to get all the essential nutrients that you need. So like we'll talk later, but there's certain nutrients that really are linked to the mood, and then it'd be harder to get them all if you don't eat a variety of foods. And then eating too many refined carbohydrates, and we'll talk more about that, such as high intakes of processed carbohydrates. So those would be like the white bread, pastries. They can cause blood sugars to rise and then fall rapidly, and that can affect your mood. So just a couple things on that. Yeah. So moving on. I had to show you too. Joanna had this idea and we were talking about it, but if you look, it's really interesting. They have looked at studies and like the World Health Organization in the first year of the COVID-19 pandemic, anxiety and depression increased by a massive 25% worldwide. So it's like you definitely were not alone here. And so in the Americas, a study found that like in 2021, it was about 32.8% experienced elevated depressive symptoms, and then that was only 27.8 in the early months of the pandemic, and before the pandemic it was 8.5. So I did some research and I found that we're at about 31.5 today. And so we're not dropping quite as rapidly as we went up. And so just the researchers were saying, this is really different than other crises. Like usually there's like this depression will peak like right following that traumatic event and then it'll lower over time. And instead, like we're finding that like 12 months, even like after, the initial hit, it remained high. And maybe that's because we keep having traumatic events. But it's really interesting. And the researchers pointed that out. So some food and mood. So there's a growing body of research and evidence that supports a dietary pattern, which is higher intake of fruits, vegetables, olive oil, nuts, fish, and whole grain, and a lesser intake of the meat products, commercial bakery foods, trans fats, sugary desserts, drinks. And that could actually, like eating that way, can reduce the risk of depression. So it's interesting. They're trying to figure out exactly why, like it's kind of nice because these foods we know are good for our heart, and it looks like they're also good for our mind too, but it just looks like it could have something to do with our gut and the flora in there, and how like these things like they're looking at your gut might affect what your brain is like, how the state of your brain. So it could be that. But their research is still looking more. So there's complex carbohydrates, and that would be one category that just it's really helpful to get for your mood. So complex carbohydrates, they're vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and legumes. So that legumes are beans and peas. So it's mostly found in whole foods. So if you think like sweet potatoes or rolled oats or beans or quinoa, it's they can increase your availability of this feel-good chemical, and that's serotonin. So any carbohydrate will do that, but the complex ones help you keep that longer. And it's hard because if you have the processed carbohydrates, which would be kind of the opposite, they can lead to rapid spikes in your blood sugar and insulin levels. And so the serotonin release, we get it from the carbohydrates then, and it helps us feel good. It's just that, we want it to make it long lasting versus just a blood sugar spike, and then dropping, because that affects your mood, because all of a sudden you have low energy. So that can make you understand, why sometimes when you are stressed or something, you crave carbohydrates. It's because they give you serotonin and you want to feel good. So, we're actually smart, so that's that. Okay, so looking at those different things, and then I was going to show you too high intakes of those like unhealthy processed carbohydrates, such as the white bread and pastries. Those would be towards the right of this. They cause blood sugars to rise and then fall rapidly, and that can lead, like what we talked about, the low energy and irritability. So, and I was going to say too, like sometimes people are going on low carb diets. So a side effect might be because carbohydrates, they're really crucial for the production of that mood, like brain chemical serotonin. You might, until your body adapts to it, can be irritable if you're kind of on a lower carb diet. And so evidence supports like that changes in the protein carbohydrate ratio of food consumed can alter brain serotonin. So as a proportion of carbohydrates relative to the protein increases, so does your blood level of serotonin. So serotonin just is something we want. And so when we do choose carbohydrates, if we can choose those complex ones, that'll help us feel the best. And so those are the ones towards the left side of this chart. All right, so moving on, I was just going to show you quick, since we're talking about whole grains. So there's a lot of nutrients in the whole grain versus the refined, and that's what I'm talking about. The complex carbohydrates are whole grains, one of the examples. And so if you take a piece of grain, it's like this, right? It's like a grain, and then there's brown bran on the outside, and then there's a little bit of germ in the middle. And those are the dark parts of the grain. And so what they did when they made white bread is they took away the dark parts, which happened to have the fiber and then a lot of vitamins that we need, like the B vitamins and the E vitamins. So it also helps our blood sugar not spike when you have the whole grain. So that's why you want to try to choose whole grains when you can. So just an example, just the one way to really know for sure if it's a whole grain is you look at the ingredient list. So the ingredients are listed in that order, the most from the least, right? And so look for the word whole in the first ingredient, and that's how you know. So if you look at these rolls, I just found those at a store, and you can see that I thought they were whole wheat by looking at them, but if you look at the ingredients, then there's not the word whole in the first ingredient. So you see it's actually in the second, so it has some, but it's not the most. So just that's like a key to finding those feel-good carbohydrates. And then lean protein. So that also affects our hormones. So if you remember, sometimes hormone changes can affect our mood. So it increases dopamine. It's a feel-good chemical, and I can't say it, norepinephrine. It increases alertness and speeds reaction time. So that's like what some of the proteins can do for us. Helps with mood and ability to concentrate. And they have tryptophan. So people who have that, tryptophan leads to serotonin. And it's like they found with people that had a more positive effect scores after consuming a high tryptophan diet compared to a low. So it's just really interesting, like how the food can affect the people. So that is found in things like soybeans, pumpkin and sesame seeds, peanut, milk, cheese, egg whites, sunflower seeds. So it's found in more things other than just meat. And then there's a ton on fruits and vegetables. So if you've ever just wondered, should I have that apple or a donut, like which will make me feel the best? Well, I'm proving to you right now it's going to be the fruits and the vegetables. So they did just one study, for instance, evolution of well-being and happiness after it increases after the consumption of fruits and vegetables. So increased fruit and vegetable consumption was predictive of increased happiness, life satisfaction, and well-being. So that means the people who ate the most fruits and vegetables reported then they gave them tests to kind of analyze their satisfaction and stuff like that. So they were up to 0.24 life satisfaction points, and for an increase of 8 portions of fruits and vegetables per day, So the people who got to that's equal to the size of like a gain in your mind from moving to unemployment to employment. You know how you yes. So that would be the same as like how you felt the difference by eating more fruits and vegetables. Yeah, okay. And then I was going to say too, that just other thing about fruits and vegetables, the researchers were talking about is that it's, sometimes when we eat fruits and vegetables, we're like, okay, so I better eat this so I don't get a disease like in 20 years or something. And so the cool thing about eating the fruits and vegetables is they found that the effects are within 24 hours of how you feel. So it's kind of cool because you can actually really affect how you're going to feel maybe tomorrow by what you're eating. And then there's a systematic review. So that's where they look at like a ton of studies with fruits and vegetables and your mood. And they found that the most prominent results indicated that high total intake of fruits and vegetables and some of their specific subgroups also, including the berries, the citrus, the green leafy vegetables, they can promote higher levels of optimism. So people who ate more of them felt more optimistic. They felt more confidence. They had lower psychological distress, and is more protective against depression. So, yes, taken together, I guess, just not only can the total ones help you, like total fruits and vegetables, but it looks like some of these groups are especially helpful. And just a couple other ones I wanted to point out. There are a ton of studies, so I was looking at them all, but just one of them was found consumption of vegetables and fruits in the last 3 days were less likely to be associated with depression. And participants like who ate less fruits and vegetables, citrus, other things were more likely to have depression compared to those other ones. And then they found women with high stress consumed less fruits. So who knows, maybe it's just the fruit. So just trying to eat better, just basically eating more fruits and vegetables was associated then with less, better mood, less stress, better, less anxious, and less risk of depression. So, and it's really hard because we do have a lot of stressors around. So just trying to eat better things can help. So the top 10, this is another one that kind of looked at a bunch of different foods. They were 422 young adults in New Zealand, and they were looking at them and figured out what foods they ate. And out of all the foods and stuff, they found that the ones that helped the most with helped prevent depressive symptoms, anxiety, negative mood, helped improve life satisfaction. So they found that these 10 were most associated with feeling good. And they found that bananas and apples, so bananas and apples, let me get to the right part. Yeah, they were the strongest predictors of the most of the mental health symptoms. So that's kind of fun in that study, this bananas and apples won out. And then just I had to put one more slide, but in general, just you might wonder like, well, how many do I actually have to eat? So in general, like the strongest effect was observed with 6 servings a day, 7 sometimes, or more than 8. So just how I guess the Produce for Better Health, they suggest at least 5 a day, and that's the dietary guidelines too. So if we can just get up a little bit, like that could just maybe help us feel better and be able to think better. And if you look at the picture on the right, like those little heart plates, if you think about it, like kiwi, that would be 1 serving. There's that, looks like maybe mango. There's another one, cranberry. Say you have half of an avocado, you're already at like 4. Like a couple blueberries would be 5. So you could see how you could do it. So just trying to focus a little bit on those things. Okay. And then another study did, and this is, they were reviewing all the different studies again, and they looked at which nutrients looked like they helped prevent depression the most. And so here we have these. But sometimes it's hard to figure out exactly, okay, so I don't want to supplement with all these and I don't recommend that. And so then like, how am I supposed to get those things that will help me feel better? And so then they looked at that all those nutrients, and they found the foods that have the majority of those nutrients the most, like out of all, they looked at a ton of foods. And so then when you come down to it, like the foods that could help your mood the most, or they have the nutrients that could help your mood the most, are the ones listed here. So it's kind of nice, like the studies are all finding the same thing. It's like fruits and vegetables, there's some seafood, some organ meats, and those have zinc and iron, and they found that those can help Brussels sprouts, collards, things like that. So just looking at those foods, if you like any of those, there are mussels on the right side, the picture, just could be one more reason, just enjoy those. And then there's dietary recommendations out there for the prevention of depression. Then this is evidence-based too. So they're saying, if you want to prevent depression, which obviously just we're having a lot more right now. So Mediterranean diet, so that would be whole foods like fruits and vegetables. Sounds familiar, right? Whole grains, lean proteins, and that can help keep the depression at bay and stabilize your mood, and keep you out of the danger zone where it feels like only the cupcake can save the day. And then consuming adequate amounts of omega-3 fatty acids, something I didn't mention in one of the other slides, but just they looked at like 21 studies on fish, and they found that fish really, really helped people. So if you like fish, that would be another thing to increase. And if you don't, maybe you can try to find a way you might like it. And so looking at those things, also, you guys, can I ask in the chat, would you write what foods do you think have omega-3s? Because those are very good. So I just wanted to see if you guys might know. Where can you all find omega-3 fatty acids? Because it looks like they can be really good for our brain. Salmon, yep, fish, nuts and fish. You guys are awesome. Okay, so fish, like the fatty ones, which you guys totally got: mackerel, salmon, cod liver oil, tilapia, herring, oysters, sardines, so on the pizza. Vegetable oils such as olive oil actually have some. And then there's one nut that has more than, like significantly more than all the other ones. Do you guys want to guess which one it is? It's not the macadamia. There's walnuts. Yes, good job, Don. So walnuts especially, and then flaxseed, pumpkin seeds, and algae. So those things can really help. And then avoiding the processed foods, kind of, the sugar-sweetened drinks and snacks, those kind of things, like, they can give you that feel-good serotonin chemical for a little bit. But then when you have this significant drop, that's when your mood makes you just like irritable and things like that. So refined grains can do the same thing. So that's why choosing those other foods can make you feel your best. So we're getting to the end. So positive changes that you can make to support your health. So what could you do? So eat a variety of foods. Okay, we can do this, right? It's just eating a lot of different things, because that'll help get the nutrients that you need, like all those nutrients that were on that slide. So then you don't have to worry about which ones you're getting. And then choosing less refined sugars and more whole grains. So say, you're having white bread in the morning, maybe you could switch it to whole wheat bread. And that would really help, and that could help your mood. And then eating at set intervals throughout the day. So that's like, when you are that hangry, right? It obviously affects your mood, if you haven't eaten in a long time. So trying to eat at set intervals can actually like give you those nutrients that your brain needs. And then including protein at each meal, because that can do that tryptophan, and then also can help manage your blood sugar so that you don't have those up and downs with the mood that we were talking about. And then there's more. You could try to include omega-3 rich foods like oily fish in your diet. So you could try to have fish 2 times a week. That would be a great goal. Or trying to have walnuts sometimes in your cereal. And then drinking plenty of fluids, especially water. And Joanna mentioned this too. And it's just the sugary drinks doesn't look like they really help you mood. So that's why water can be important, and also helps so you don't get constipated and you don't feel so good anyway. So reaching a healthy weight for you, that can help you feel your best. Getting regular exercise. You guys talked about that too in the chat. And then consuming at least 5 portions of fruits and vegetables a day if you can. Because just really, the fruits and vegetables, they look like a total win on your mood. Okay, and then where research is headed. So just what I was talking about, they're looking to see why the diet might influence the mental health so much, and they're looking at like the gut, like microbes, and how like what you eat could, maybe affect those, which maybe could affect how we feel. And it's looking like we might actually get to get to a point pretty soon where you can almost do, prescribe certain foods, to the development, prevention, and management of mental health conditions. And honestly, from this presentation, I'm saying that, but if you, it looks like we already could. We know evidence shows already fruits and vegetables. Having some protein, not skipping meals, drinking water, and then trying to get some more fish. Like those can really help us feel our best. And just, I guess, in summary, like it's just we're having like there's a lot of stress out there. So then anything we can do to just help us a little bit or help our bodies just so that we can be more happy in life wouldn't be a bad thing. Okay, so then we have a short evaluation that we'll send you, and I have the link here. I might not be able to copy it, but what I'll do is I'll send an email, and if you guys can please fill out the survey, that will help us a lot. And plus, we have 3 more. So then, if you guys give us some good feedback, we will be better later. And I hope you join us for the other 3. And let's see, references. And do you guys have any questions? Yeah, we just have a couple minutes.
So really quick, I want to go back. Angelita's showing us just snacking on, looks like nuts. You got nuts there? Nice. Nice. So
That's
we'll
awesome.
go back to a few questions that some people put in the chat box here just to make sure that we answer. So Heather asked for you, Andrea, does some of that mood boost come from feeling like you did something right from eating healthy foods? And I know you mentioned serotonin, right?
Yeah. And I wonder, they have found that that's one of so they found like why people, I know there's studies that have shown like that for fruits and vegetables, a lot of people eat fruits because they so the benefits of eating fruits for them is they actually taste good and they like them. And a lot of some people actually eat vegetables and they have this like superior, like really good, like I know I did something, I'm really proud of myself feeling after doing that. And so I know that definitely probably might help. But like I think here they were controlling for some of the factors so that it couldn't be couldn't be something else couldn't cause it, so that they could make sure there was association between the fruits and the vegetables and stuff. But who knows? I mean, maybe they'll find that. It's just that we're really proud of ourselves for eating those, but whatever works, right?
Sure. For sure. Somebody also asked something, so are we suggested to intake a multivitamin supplement every day? And then somebody also mentioned how they add essential oils to their water. So any comments you have on that?
I think, well, I was just going to say, if you're not eating a varied diet, like the goal would be just to try to get some fruits and vegetables, just to try to get a variety of foods. And if you don't think you're getting a variety of foods, then maybe a multivitamin. But that would be something you can ask your doctor just to make sure, because everybody's different and they might know more. And then what was the other one? Just that.
That they were commenting about how they were adding some essential oils in their water, citrus essential oil.
Yeah, that probably, it's like the studies, they looked at the whole fruits and vegetables, and that's just something to, we know, like sometimes when you take the nutrients out of the fruits and vegetables, like it's just the association, something's not, reacting the same. But the essential oils, I know it's a really good part. It's the oil of the fruit, but I think sometimes just doing the whole ones can help, but the essential oils probably wouldn't be so bad either. So
yeah, definitely. Alrighty, guys. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up. If anybody else has any other questions, go ahead and put those in the chat box, or if you just want to unmute and ask, you can go ahead and do so.
Again. Thank you guys for all coming. We hope to see you next week. We're talking about exercise, right? And being outside and the mood also. So be pretty good, I think.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Some of you guys were actually eating while you were learning. Proud of you. So we'll send out that evaluation, and if you can fill that out for us, that would be a great help. But with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good one, everybody.